Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Carol Correa, Mark Smith, and John DeRosa coming to you from Arlington, Virginia with the Kardec Radio Show, and we welcome all you dear listeners. In today's broadcast, we will be reviewing a message from Andre Luis delivered through the medium Chico Javier. Our title is Let Us Examine Ourselves. And I want you all to know that the chat room is now open. And, of course, the phone call-in number is 858-769-4705. And as I said, our title today is Let Us Examine Ourselves. This message has about 19 or 20 some questions to study and attempt to answer, trying to help us determine what progress we have made over the last 3 successive years. However, before we get started with Andre's message, we wanted to discuss a little about last Saturday's show in which Vanessa focused on testing the disobsessive process. As we all are laboring and living under some form of obsession, and she outlined the process of helping us to identify which type of obsession we may be experiencing, to accept that we all experience a certain level of obsession. Then she discussed how to handle these conditions and to begin to diminish their effects. Of course, negative thoughts about ourselves and others opens the door to obsession from spirits that have issues with us. And one way to offset these effects is to generate the feeling of being an immortal soul and spirit, first and foremost, and second as a physical-bodied being, because we live life in 2 worlds. And when we can begin to not only understand we are first immortal spirits, but to begin to feel this way, we can use this feeling to help us progress. Questions then arise. How are we to practice getting into that feeling of spirit? One technique is meditation, as it can put us in a spiritual state if practiced on a daily basis and within a varying amount of time, say 1 to 3 months, depending upon one's consistency, we can begin to understand what that feeling of spirit may actually be. Meditation is one approach, and we feel that today's message is another way to foster our feeling of spirit. Andre's message tests our progress through a series of questions that help us examine our thoughts, words, and actions concerning ourselves and others. We will read this message, then come back and visit as many questions as we can today. It is suggested that as we go through the discussion of each question, that there will be some that we feel progress has been made, others that we know we need to address, and yet others that we may not have even considered. Remember, this exam is to be used as a yardstick to determine if we have made progress toward improving ourselves, which will help with the disobsessive process as they are linked together. When we make progress, rather than stagnating, we generate energy waves that help us reduce the obsessive spirit and hopefully eventually getting to the point of the spirit giving up and looking elsewhere, or even requesting help for their transition to a higher level. So let us take a short break, and then we'll return for the message.
Divine Surprise. Good and fraternal soul, if the impulse to pray blesses you, whenever you wish to pray to seek the Lord's security, do it anywhere. The entire earth is an open temple for the inspiration that pours from heaven. But to find the Master that you seek, dear soul, come down to life's valley of tears, where comfort is late to arrive, where the pain of indigence and the tears of widowhood roam along the path's edges, extending a strong arm to the ones who wander without direction and who are lost in the nostalgia of the home life that has disappeared. Listen to the ones who go during the cold and windy night without being able to tell about their own suffering. They hunger for care and understanding. Stop and hug the child that is consumed by disdain and wiped out by disease. Stop and assist in clothing, healing, and feeding this small flower. Hear the cry of the sick person who has nothing but dust and tears as a bed, in a narrow corner in the land of no one. Be aware of the cries of those in the height of anguish, the sad hearts torn apart by slander. Go where there is affliction, offering to each sufferer a gift of love, and there you will see a divine light sweetly irradiating peace, goodness, and joy. From this light, the deepest part of your trusting soul will hear Jesus tenderly say, "Dear soul, come. I hear your voice in prayer everywhere. I must, however, await you in the fields of goodness. You said I was right in knowing that God loves and understands through you. You look so far away for me, and all along I await you close by. Good soul, I am here."
Welcome back to Kardec Radio. I'm Mark, and I'm here with John DeRosa and Carolina Correa. And what we're doing today is discussing the message, "Let us examine ourselves," which is from the Spirit Andre Luis, psychographed by Chico Xavier. And this is found in question number 919 of the Spirit's book. And the question that was being asked is, what is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? And the answer is, the Christian spiritist duty is to progressively become better. Thus, it is useful to check from time to time our real inner situation by using rigorous personal examination. The spiritist Christian who does not progress during 3 successive years remains stationary. So here are the suggestions. Number 1, test your own patience. Are you calmer, more affable, and more understanding? Inquire regarding your relationships at home. Have you achieved the highest climate of peace at home? Another suggestion, investigate yourself regarding the activities that pertain to you in the doctrinal temple, which we presume means the home here. Do you collaborate with greater joy in the harvest of the Lord? Observe yourself before your friends. Do you bring the gospel with livelier attitudes in your home? Reflect about your capacity for sacrifice. Do you notice in yourself broader willingness to serve voluntarily? Research your own detachment. Do you walk a little freer from the desire to influence and earthly possessions? Do you use more intensely the pronouns we, our, ours, and less the determinatives I, mine, and my? Are your moments of sadness or silent anger, sometimes only known by yourself, rarer now? Has the little remorse hidden in the recesses of your souls decreased? Have you dissipated old enemies and dislikes? Have you overcome chronic lapses of inattention and neglect? Have you studied more deeply the doctrine that you profess? Do you better understand the function of pain? Do you still cultivate some discreet disagreement? Do you help those in need with greater abnegation, really being praying? Have your ideals evolved? Has your rational faith been consolidated more deeply? Are your words more indulgent, your arms more active, and your hands giving more blessings? The gospel is joy in the heart. Have you, in fact, been more joyful and happy inside in these last 3 years? Everything moves along. Everything evolves. Let's check our individual revenue with Christ. Spontaneously weigh in the existence today while living in peaceful circumstance so that you may not see the obligation to weighing it in tomorrow under the impact of pain. Do not fool yourself. A day that is gone is another share of responsibility, another step towards the spiritual life. It is either not another valued opportunity or a missed one. Interrogate your conscience regarding the usefulness you have been giving to time, to health, and to the opportunities of doing the good that you enjoy in your daily life. Now, while you still have the human body, use this possibility to reconsider guidelines and easily undo mistakes, because when you come to this side, it will often be more difficult. John?
Thank you, Mark. We will now begin a review of as many questions as we possibly can get through in the hour that's allotted to us here. That famous question 919 in the Spirit's book, what is the most effective means of improving yourself in this life and for resisting the draw of evil, also had a message from St. Augustine associated with it about an examination that you should perform each night before bedtime so that you're comfortable knowing that we have determined what good or we have possibly sowed and what actions or words or thoughts we need to adjust. And Carol Correa also has a mention.
John, thank you, dear listeners. In the United States, dear friends, we are near our celebration of our Independence Day, and one of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, developed a system that is very useful to us in the process of self-examination. And this particular process he developed when he was only 20 years old, which is quite impressive, but it's suitable for adults and children of all ages, so feel free to try it. And he focuses in particular in 13 virtues. What he did was he developed a self-knowledge log, and he kept track of his behavior from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Neuroscience has now come to show to us that if we stick to a particular habit for 21 days, it actually becomes a part of who we are. So let's all take the challenge of self-renewal. And the framework that Benjamin Franklin offers us is again based on 13 virtues that he wanted to cultivate within the garden of his heart. I will mention just a few that speak to me, and you, dear listener, can feel free to Google it and examine it yourself. One that speaks to me is the virtue of silence. How many times do I see myself with an itch, so to speak, to respond, to argue back, to prove myself right, to show that my point of view is best? Well, to exercise more emotional management and to cultivate patience, which is one of the virtues Andre Lewis brings to us, silence is one practical avenue that we can choose to take. Dear listener, one question that I can ask myself and that I invite yourself to ask yourself is, am I able to silence myself when I have the quote-unquote argument itch? Another one that I would like to bring to my own attention and at the same time share with you is moderation. For example, especially during the holidays, I enjoy, in the summer, I enjoy eating ice cream. I enjoy talking like mad on the phone and with my dear friend John and everyone else at the center nonstop. My question now is, am I able to moderate myself and practice more listening than actually speaking? Do I really need to eat 2 gallons of ice cream, or could I potentially avoid extremes? That's a challenge that I can choose to embrace. Just another one that I would like to bring to your attention is here is resolution. Of course, I'm talking to you on Kardec Radio, and it all sounds beautiful here, but it will never come into action if I am not resolute, if I don't decide to embrace this opportunity of inner renewal. So resolution is a virtue that Benjamin Franklin wisely decided to embrace, and one that I invite myself and you, dear listener, to consider as well as we engage in the process of self-examination.
Thank you, Carol. Now we will begin the process of looking at as many of possibly these questions. And I think Carol did a pretty good job of the first one, which is test your own patience. Are you calmer, more affable, and more understanding? This is one of the first questions to be looked at. We must show ourselves, because all too often we could be like that flower that is not ready quite to bloom yet to share its joy with the rest of the world. Sometimes it's buried a little too deep, just like our soul is covered up, and we need to come out and share that particular joy of patience. Let me move on to another one. What have you done to contribute to peace and harmony within your home, which is probably very applicable to everybody. I know all of us that are here and everybody else probably out there, because our thoughts and words and actions create either a peaceful or stressful family climate. And one of the other messages he had there was investigate yourself regarding the activities that pertain to you in the doctrinal temple, which is the home. So a little example that we came up with was sometimes you've come home in the evening and you walk into the house and there's a stack of dirty dishes in the sink. And maybe there's some food that somebody had removed from the refrigerator, but they hadn't put it back away yet. Or maybe the trash container is full and some of your family members are sitting around watching TV. Of course, your first emotional response might be that you are a little bit angry at them. And also you may feel that your family is somewhat of a burden to you at times. So we need to address this change in a more caring and loving way and speak words of kindness. And the suggestion is to make your actions examples of your thoughts and words, so that you kindly take care of those dishes or stow that food away or empty that trash container, so that your example can speak so much louder than your possible words. Always, again, with the thought, a kind thought. Carol's also got another example for us.
This example comes, again, dear listener, directly from my favorite spirit reporter, better than 60 Minutes on TV, if you ask me. And this reporter is Andre Lewis, and we find out that he was so adamant at getting things during his last existence on Earth at his own time. You know, if I want it, I get it now. Do you know anyone with this kind of personality, dear listener, where you offer them something and they say, well, if I can't get it now, forget it. It's either now or never. Well, Andre Lewis had this type of personality, and you know what happened? If you're curious, you could read No Solar, but I could give you a little taster. What happened was he ended up developing ulcer as a result of his impulsive temper and very strong temper. And when he came to the spiritual realm after leaving his physical body, what do you guys think happened? He didn't heal magically. He actually, believe it or not, carried those characteristics, including his very hot temper, back to the spiritual realm with him. And when he was undergoing treatment, the kind mentors pointed out to him that he had become addicted to having things his way. And unless he were willing to re-examine himself and give up this addiction, he would literally no longer be able to take part of that community. So let us one more time take this example in and have the courage to examine ourselves.
So we have one positive example. We have one negative example. Now we'll move on to one of the next questions that are asked. Observe yourself before your friends. Do you share the gospel with a livelier or better attitudes? Carol's got a message from the Good News she'd like to share.
Dear listener, the book Good News, if you haven't heard of it yet, is a book psychographed by the spirit Humberto de Campos, and he recounts firsthand 30 actual episodes of Christ's life. So it's like having a DVD that goes 2,000 years back, and you press the play button, and Jesus actually appears in your screen, and you can see his life as if it were a movie. How cool is that? Better than going to the movies itself, if you ask me. The book will be coming out in English shortly, we hope, but right now our team here would like to share a very hopeful message with you. In one of his conversations with his apostle Bartholomew, Jesus notices that Bartholomew suffered from depression, that he constantly had sad spells, so to speak, because he wanted the gospel of the master to be more powerful, to be more, quote-unquote, popular, to be more easily accepted by others. And he didn't know what to do. He felt very discouraged because of the resistance that Jesus experienced in his work. And Jesus then came to him and said, Bartholomew, do you know why the gospel is called the, quote, good news, end quote? And he said, well, good question. I don't know. And he said, because it is good in nature. It is positive. It is uplifting. It's a source of eternal hope. So what would be of our message if our very own followers feel depressed? Do you think the message will be as believable as it needs to be? And he said, oh, Master, I had never thought of that. Thank you for pointing this out. And then Jesus completed the beautiful lesson by saying, Bartholomew, always remember, trademark of a true follower of the good news is that of joy. So that's the message directly from Christ to you, dear listener.
Another little positive example happened. I walk our dogs every day, and one of our dog walking buddies we noticed happened to start picking up trash that was in the street and throwing it into the waste can. However, we got there, and every once in a while you run into other dog owners or some wild animals that have used the grass to do their business, and nobody has picked it up. And this person would also go ahead and pick this up. And it wasn't too long after many of us saw this action going on that we found ourselves basically imitating what that person had done, the picking up of the trash and making sure that we cleared the field for other dog walkers. So it's a very mundane way of spreading the gospel, but it's a joyful process that you do in service to others. Our next segment that we're going to look at, one other one I wanted to add in here. It's again a very simple and mundane one. I saw one of our neighbors doing this. One of the neighbors had been away on vacation. Before they went on vacation, they left their three cans that get picked up each week. One was for trash and one was for recycling, and the other one was what they call yard waste here. And after the cans had been disposed of and emptied, I noticed that neighbor came out of his house, picked up his cans, but also went over to one of the other neighbors and stowed those cans away. And maybe he was asked, but I don't think he possibly was. But again, it's another way of doing a little positive service action without having to look back and have somebody pat you on the back. Spreading the example. And let's see, let's move on to another one of the messages. Reflect about your capacity for sacrifice. Do you notice in yourself a broader willingness to serve voluntarily? And that could be a couple of the messages that I just mentioned, but we have many other stories that we could share with you. And I'm going to turn the mic back over to Carol, and then I'm going to give you an example also.
Hello, dear listeners. We would like to share with you another example from our favorite spirit reporter, Andre Lewis. When he had been at Nosolar for almost 1 year, he was given the permission to revisit with his family in the earthly realms. And his expectation, dear listener, was that his wife would be there waiting for him, thinking of him, cherishing his memory, and that she would be forever loyal to him. But then once he actually revisited with his family, he realized that his wife had started a new family. And at first, his temper again triggered him. But after much meditation, as was mentioned here in the beginning of the program, he was able to recalibrate his feelings and become more aware of his potential for doing the good and for spreading joy, because all of us have the divine seed within ourselves. And he directly and purposely chose to put the divine seed into use. So then he went back to his own home and decided to see the same situation differently. He decided to see that opportunity of revisiting his wife and her new husband as an opportunity of service and as an opportunity to practice compassion and love without attachment. How many of us, dear listeners, love our family members so much that we often say, oh, this is my husband, this is my partner, this is my companion, this is mine. And we are actually at times, in my view, conditioned to see the world in this way. And the example Andre Lewis shared with us is very thought-provoking and is a great opportunity for reflection. Are we brave enough to help others without the mine type of feeling? That's a challenge for all of us to consider.
Thank you, Carol. Wonderful message that you shared with us. The example that I would like to share is another acquaintance of mine, a friend that I know helps out a little lady that's in her 90s. It's living in an apartment, and she can't get out because she's got congestive heart failure. So there's several people, like 3 or 4 that I'm aware of, that help her with food and preparation and delivery. Some of them help clean the apartment, others pick up her prescriptions. And on several occasions, there's one person might get a call from her indicating that, oh, I have a prescription ready. Could you possibly come downtown here and pick it up at the neighborhood pharmacy? Most of the time, it's she gives as he was telling me, gives at least a day or two ahead of time so you can do that. But in this particular case, she needed the prescription that day. And of course, trying to find a parking space downtown can be troubling at most. You usually can do it, but it takes a little bit of time. So the person, without thinking about it, jumped in his car and took off downtown, picked her prescription up, and delivered it to her. And that's another example of setting aside whatever you might have been doing at that particular moment and putting yourself in the service of others. Any other from my compatriots here? Okay, we'll move on to the next question. And it is, do you walk a little freer from the desire and the influence of earthly possessions? That's another wonderful question that we all struggle with. One of the ones that comes to mind right away with myself, and I know probably many other people, is minimizing your TV watching, minimizing your cell phone browsing, and to direct yourself more to reading more spiritually oriented books, or even better, praying more frequently, praying for those other people that need our prayers so dearly. Maybe watch positive TVs that take an educational focus on the positive aspects of news. I know Mark has something that he wanted to share, so we're going to turn the mic over to him now.
Yeah, one of the things that I was thinking about when we're talking about earthly possessions is how much we sort of tie in or think about our emotional health as being connected to how much we possess, how much we own, how much we have been constantly reminded in our society of the value or the strong belief that if we consume more, we will be happier, we will be more, we will like ourselves more, we will like others more, and it's no wonder that we have such a society that is so connected to consumption. I just recently had a story I wanted to share of I'm working with some students right now at the university I work at, talking about advertising. And one of the things that's really surprising to me is how much we take for granted the fact that we are the advertising. Just a classic example would be McDonald's. They create an image that just simply by consuming the food there, which effectively is, I suppose, a form of earthly possession. I mean, we do need to eat, but we don't need to eat McDonald's, right? And the funny thing here is how taken for granted people have made the idea that McDonald's is associated with happiness. Going to McDonald's will improve your relationships with your children. But think about this. I mean, the emotional connection that we have when we see a McDonald's ad, and we've seen many of us, if we're watching this in any country that doesn't have McDonald's, I mean, I think every country except Iceland now has McDonald's. Every ad that, if you think about your relationship to McDonald's and you think about the emotional connection that they've made to you through those advertisements, what surprised me with my students was how they just took that for granted. They didn't question it. It becomes part of their reality that a hamburger is associated with bliss and with emotional connection. Happy Meals, as Carolina's saying, the fact that this is something very deliberate and very manipulative, and yet we don't seem to question it or recognize it. And so I think it's important for us to look a little bit more carefully, I think. This message from Andre Luis is really helping us to examine, I think, our reality in our day-to-day lives much more than we realize.
Thank you, Mark. Carol would like to add to this one, so after Carol's message, we'll take a little break.
Something that comes to my mind thinking of earthly possession is a question I ask myself every day. How long can I spend without my phone or without an internet connection. It seems like we now, our livelihood and our human status, so to speak, is dependent upon whether or not we can have an internet connection and be 24 hours accessing the social media, for example. And a question that I like to pose to myself is, what happened to the good old-fashioned conversations that we used to have, and dinner conversations without three people looking at the cell phone at the same time? The other day, Mark and I were at a restaurant, and every single person sitting at the very same table were using their respective devices, so there were no communication at all whatsoever. And something else that comes to my attention is that even when we are walking at a mall, we often see parents looking at their cell phones so attentively that they can't really communicate or attend to the immediate needs of their little children. And I wonder to what extent our dependency on earthly possessions in the form of electronic devices are helping us to cultivate emotional starvation. We often consider physical nutrition, of course, but do we ever stop to think about emotional nutrition and spiritual nutrition? Of course, dear listeners, all of you are right now at this very moment nourishing your soul. So congratulations to you. All of you are connected to the Kardec Radio chat room. Congratulations. You're using your internet connection very wisely. But how many of us take into consideration the importance of nourishing our hearts and our souls? That's just a thought for us to take into consideration.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if we don't nourish our souls, maybe somebody else will try to take advantage of it and, take control of them. Just a thought.
Very much so, very easily. Dear listeners, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back in a few minutes. Thank you.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Hey, kids!
Did you know that Kardec Radio is now for you?
We, Mark,
and Carol,
are going to tell you the most beautiful, exciting, fun stories ever.
All with messages of love and hope that will make your heart smile.
Tune in to Kardec Radio Mondays beginning October 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for
Stories from the Heart at Kardec Radio for Kids.
Of course, if you miss us, you can always find us on demand at kardecradio.com.
If you like our stories, write to us or send your drawings to kardecforkids@gmail.com.
We can't wait to see you then.
Bye.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on a previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand section of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website at www.kardecradio.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Help prevent suicide by reading and sharing these books with others. 2 great books are available to help in this Kardec Radio campaign to prevent suicide. Suicide, All You Need to Know, by the international Spiritist speaker Richard Simonetti. You can buy your copy at www.roundtablepublishing-uk.com. Also, Memoirs of a Suicide by the medium Yvonne Pereda. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Kardec Radio now offers more programs during the week and weekends. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can follow the beautiful program God at Home with Francisca Kranz and the British Spiritist community. They will brighten your days by doing a God at Home meeting wherever you are in the world, while teaching you how to do the same in your own home with your family and friends. Every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will hear incredibly inspirational Spiritist talks directly broadcasted by Spiritist Network. There will be true educational moments to carry out to immortality. Every Saturday, live interviews, Bridging Health and Spiritism with the host Dr. Vanessa Anceloni. You may ask questions to the interviewed guests by calling 858-769-4705. And every Sunday, tune in to Spiritist Awareness at Kardec Radio. You will hear a series of segments on a diversity of Spiritist topics. Kardec will broadcast the Spiritist Moment with Kirsten DeMello, the reading of the Spiritist book by John DeRosa and Steve Shepard, Spiritism in Your Life with Drs. Marco and Joyce Magalhães, Spiritism and the Gospel with Luis Sergio Marotta, Spiritist Education for Youth and Children with Bernadette Leal, Spiritist Music with James Marotta, Neuroscience and Spiritism with Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, and many more segments coming soon. Enjoy it all and nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Welcome back, dear Kardec Radio listeners. And I have to apologize for somebody had called in, and unfortunately, we are novices using this thing, this Blog Talk Radio, and we cut them off, so I apologize to that person. But there is another caller on the line, and we're going to try to bring that particular person on right now. Hello, are you still hanging in there?
Yes, I'm hanging in there. I'm sorry. I was just listening in. I kind of got distracted. But I'm on the road for self-knowledge and discovery for myself.
Could you repeat that, dear?
I said I am on the road of self-discovery. And,
wonderful.
You know, just it's been very challenging, often confusing.
Did you have any particular question that you wanted to ask, my dear, or?
Well, I don't know if I'm not sure where I'm at right now because I'm working on several different things at once. That seems to be the norm. I wish I was able to just focus on one thing, one aspect of my life, if it was even just like my health or my spiritual awareness. I don't know what you can offer to that.
Can you tell us what your name is, please, if you don't mind?
My name is Jackie.
Hi, Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
I'm Carol. It's nice talking to you. Thank you for your very realistic testimonial here. And it is true that the road to self-knowledge is a very spiral road, even for spirits who are ahead of us. They all attest to the fact that growth is very spiral. If we observe children themselves, we can exactly predict what their next step will be, no matter how many children development textbooks we read, because life is filled with beautiful surprises. So I commend you for taking this very challenging and spiral road. And what we can say is that we are all on the same boat, as if that is of any consolation to you. And what comes to my mind is that luckily for us, our Spiritist philosophy tends to be very practical, and the very message we are discussing gives us very practical food for thought here, or steps that we can consider taking. And the message which I read in the beginning of the show, which was based upon Benjamin Franklin's philosophy of self-discovery and self-knowledge, may speak to you more, because he was very methodical and systematic in examining himself. He actually maintained a log for each day to examine his progress, and lucky for us, he admitted to the fact that he couldn't focus on many skills at once. He admitted to the fact that he's a great learner himself and that he's not perfect. So he had the courage to focus on one skill per week. If you would like, you could follow on his steps as well.
Okay, that sounds good. I missed the beginning part of the show. Right before you picked up my show, someone was actually talking to me. So I was kind of distracted. And distraction is a major issue because I don't like to focus on many things at once. I remember many years ago when if you were a multitasker, that was considered a great asset. And I've come to understand that, no, that spreads yourself thin. So
that's right.
Distractions, I don't need the distractions, but there are some distractions that I'm dealing with now that I know are spiritual in nature and very emotionally draining.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm trying to learn how to handle that and, have some clarity of some things that I have to take care of. So.
Oh, yeah. Yes, if you, congratulations to you once again because you are nourishing your soul at this very moment. So you're definitely taking very good care of your emotional health just by giving yourself a chance to meditate and have a conversation with us, and we appreciate that. But one strategy that you could consider taking into consideration is practicing meditation. And I know for me, this sounds
as well.
That's good
and
because
grounding as well. But I live in an area that's heavily populated and it's extremely noisy.
Right.
And that
we understand.
Like even going for a walk, you can't go for a quiet walk.
We understand
and it's so unfortunate.
Yes, maybe God sees your potential and knows that you can reach a certain level of balance even within the mix of all the noise. So perhaps in seeing your potential, God has placed you exactly where you are because you can teach us how to stay grounded more. Maybe if you could practice staying grounded within in the midst of all the noise and the challenge for 30 seconds at a time, that would already be progress.
Okay. I just have to echo what Carol just mentioned to you, Jackie, that meditation, of course, you are under probably the most difficult circumstances to begin meditation, and maybe you have tried it, but if you do it maybe early in the morning or late in the evening before you go to bed, it doesn't take much time, 10, 15 minutes at the most, of putting yourself in a meditative state. And there's many types of meditation. Some people focus on a candle. Some people focus on a breathing. Some people focus on what they call a mantra. But the important thing is to put yourself in that calm, peaceful state, which will eventually, and you will eventually, with persistence, get to the point where you can be in a crowded room and you can still put yourself in a meditative state, even with the conversations going on. Of course, it may take you a while.
Right, and I do try that. But I always feel as though I'm not getting to the place of Zen, to the place of peace.
Yeah,
when I garden, I meditate as well.
Right. That's exactly another form of meditation. You can meditate washing dishes, cleaning your house, making your bed. It's all a matter of how you put that concentration into it, where you're mindful of what you're doing and not distracted by anybody's discussion or any other thoughts. You're focused on exactly what you're doing. And that puts you into a entrance to that meditative state. And if you keep up your work as you've been doing, within X amount of time, maybe another month, 2 months, it will happen to you, and you will begin your journey.
It's been a long, lonely journey.
Yes. Oh, yes, it is.
And it really started to get very difficult when I lost my mother. And
okay.
I've always questioned God, asked, why did that have to happen to me? I mean, I expected her to go on one day, but I didn't expect the resistance, the difficulties in the battles.
Well, that's one of the joys that I found when you embrace Spiritism, you understand so much about the afterlife. And one of the joys of Spiritism is that life goes on. There's actually a book by Andre Luis called Life Goes On, and it was also made into a movie. And it gives you a little peek into what the afterlife is like and how much happier we are when we get to our true home. Our true home is on the other side. It's in the spiritual world. And how long ago did your mother pass away?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Well, there's no doubt that she's probably been able to recover from her whatever took her to the other side. And there's no doubt in my mind she's around you at times. I'm sure you probably sense her.
I do. I hear that sometimes. I hear that a lot, but what I don't understand is that there's so many things that's going on behind the passing of her death, and I just can't imagine that what we're seeing and dealing with, that she would want this to happen. I just can't see it.
She doesn't always have control over that. Many times, as Carol was saying earlier, we are given these opportunities, we will call them, in our life, and they're there for us to grow. But I'd like to leave you with the thought, Jackie, that we'll be offering some prayers at the end of the show, and you will be one of our people that will put a special prayer in for you.
Okay.
So thank you for calling, my dear.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. And we're pretty much getting to the end of the show. We've only gotten through about 9 of the questions, and as Mark had read for us, there's about 20 of them. So maybe Vanessa will let us come back again to address the rest. Carol's going to say something too.
Dear listeners, we would just like to share with you that this message will be fully published in English at the newest issue of the Spiritist magazine, which will be available very shortly. So if you would like to examine this self-examination message for yourself, the resource will be available completely for free at spiritistmagazine.org, I believe. We also have an application which you can download for free, on your phone. So pretty soon this very message will be available for you. And speaking of meditation, of course we can meditate on the written word as well. So even reading the magazine can be a form of meditation. And also we were thinking here that for those of us who have difficulty sometimes focusing our minds, we could use the help of visualizations. There is a beautiful CD called Health. It's beautifully recorded in English, and it's a CD whose message and visualization has been psychographed by the medium Divaldo Franco, and it was shared with us through the spirit Juana de Angelis. And this beautiful CD is meant to help us focus our mind and uncover our potential to love life, to love ourselves, and to love one another in a very, very most beautiful healing way. So I would very much encourage all of you, dear listeners, who are part of our heart family, to listen to the visualizations available on the CD Health. We know the CD is available in the bookstore from the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. So if you are interested, please give yourself this beautiful gift of joy.
Thank you, Carol. Hello, this is John. Is this Jackie again?
I just wanted to listen.
Oh, okay, dear. All right, no problem. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Because we're going to wrap up the show right now. Carol is going to.
Could I ask you a question, real quick?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, honey.
You said my mother is around me, right? She comes
Yes.
around me a lot.
I'm sure she is.
So, because every once in a while I see things out the corner of my eyes. And I'm just assuming that, it's just like her mind playing tricks on me.
Hi, Jackie. We understand how you feel, and all of us have felt this way ourselves. It's very challenging to explore a world that is yet unknown, and it's always frightening to try to tackle an unknown world. So our best recommendation is what helped us to heal and what helped us to understand. Like John was saying in the beginning of the show, how can we best progress? The answer from the illuminated spirits is knowledge. So what we would like to share with you today, Jackie, if you don't mind, is the gift of knowledge. The best way that we know of course, there may be many other ways, but the way that we know worked for us is reading the Spiritist literature. Please try to watch, if you would like, the movie Nosso Lar, Our Home. It gives you a pretty beautiful glimpse of the world and the other side. And through this movie, this world on the other side will become more tangible to you and less mysterious. So you will see that your mind is not actually necessarily playing tricks on you, and that our connection to the spiritual realm happens naturally because we are all spirits living in a material world. So as John mentioned in the beginning of the show, if we are brave enough to shift perspectives and to look at ourselves not as people who have a perishable body, but as spirits who are immortal in nature, the way we look at our experiences change. And I do agree with you that this is a very challenging change because it's like in some ways swimming against the current, but there are resources available that can help us make this shift. We don't have to make this shift by ourselves. We have resources to support us. And so Nosso Lar, the movie, is a resource that we all recommend, and it's available on YouTube. Also, the other movie that we recommend is Life Goes On. And if you would like, reading the books by André Luiz is also quite illuminating. All of his books are available on Amazon.com. So the answer to your questions, as far as we understand, is within one click. So I hope you enjoy the adventure.
Okay, and I will watch the movies. Could you repeat that first movie slowly?
Sure. The movie is called Our Home, Nosso Lar. I will spell it for you. Nosso, Nosso Lar, Lar. NOSSOLAR, Nosso Lar, Our Home.
Okay.
Oh, and John is kindly reminding us that the title of the movie may also be found as Astral City, ASTRALCITY, Astral City.
Okay, Astral City. Okay.
Yes. And
right,
another movie that is available is Life Goes On.
Life Goes On.
And another movie came to my mind, and the movie is The Mothers of Chico Xavier. And this movie actually shows the experience of people grieving and wanting to communicate with their loved ones and not knowing how to deal with their emotional distress. And the movie shows channels of communication being opened through Chico Xavier's blessed mediumship, and these are all true accounts. So towards the end of the movie, you will see actual testimonies of the people who had these actual experiences sharing their first-hand accounts with you. So it's not just a Hollywood production, just so you know.
So it's the mothers of
Chico Xavier. I will spell that for you again. Chico, Chico, and Xavier, Xavier, Xavier. Okay? Thank you, Jackie.
You. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it too. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to end the show now, dear listeners. And we've used Carol a lot, but we're going to use her again to wrap up with a final prayer. And we thank you all so very much for listening to us and enduring our first endeavor. It was my first endeavor and Carol and Mark's second. So thank you again. And here's Carol.
So, dear listener, we thank you ever so kindly for this opportunity to engage in an inner journey and to revisit the temples of our very own hearts. Jesus himself has reminded us that faith can remove all and every mountain. So let us have faith, dear listeners, in the power of love, in the power of hope, in the power of compassion, and in the power of self-transformation. Life is but a beautiful, miraculous gift, a gift that is given to us all in both realms of life, so that we slowly but surely uncover the treasures of divine kindness, hopefulness, and eternal joy which Christ himself embodied. So let us now visualize a beautiful ray of sunshine coming to us. And as this beautiful ray of sunshine starts to embrace us, we see ourselves in a beautiful garden surrounded by spring flowers. The birds seem to celebrate the gift of life with us by singing hymns of infinite joy. This beautiful ray of sunlight starts to take human shape, and slowly we see that it becomes a beautiful person, one that has a very kind gaze, a gaze with piercing blue color, a beautiful loving heart, and beautiful hair that shines and dances against the sky. And we realize as we look into his eyes that we know him very well. He nonetheless introduces himself to us and says, "Hello, my sweet, darling friend. I am Jesus, and I am here to serve you. Allow me to give you a sweet embrace of kindness." As we then embrace Jesus lovingly and kindly, we see that he can hear the voice of our hearts. We then dispense all of our concerns, all of our worries, all of our difficult emotions onto his hand. He then transforms those heavy emotions into a bouquet of flowers, beautiful roses of love. He then shares those beautiful roses with us and says, you yourself are a beautiful rose. Believe in the power of love that emanates from your heart. We then thank Jesus and see that He becomes a part of us as He Himself becomes once again a ray of light that enters our heart. We then see our family, our loved ones, and even those who we are learning to love surrounding us in tears of joy. And we surrender to them in a beautiful embrace, giving them the very own roses of hope and joy given to us by Jesus. We then say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, for the beautiful gift of love and life. Let your light shine in us today and always as we become one with you. So be it.
Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing with you again in the future. God bless, and so be it.
So be it. And we'd also like to remind our listeners that Monday, this coming Monday, is the 7th anniversary of Kardec Radio. 5th anniversary, excuse me. 7 is such a good number, I wasn't thinking. You're right, it's the 5th anniversary of Kardec Radio. And I believe it's at noon. That's right. That's right. And the special topic is going to be, it's very topical because of what's been happening in Europe and other places elsewhere. The topics of xenophobia and racism will be discussed. And you will also hear messages from many, many, many of our beautiful Kardec Radio hosts. So tune in this coming Monday, July 4th, Independence Day, at noon for that beautiful anniversary program.
Bye, dear.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Many blessings always.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.